Development, the Independent National Electoral Commission says it will collaborate with the nation's anti-corruption agencies in a bid to check vote buying. For his thoughts on the interconnection between violence during elections in Nigeria and sundry forms of electoral malfeasance, and this expression of readiness by INEC to collaborate for practical solutions, we're now being joined by lawyer and public affairs analyst Opatola. Victor, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Very good. All right. So first off, realistically, do we possess the infrastructure to track vote buying real time, you think? This collaboration bid by INEC with the anti-graft agencies, what are your thoughts?
Thank you. With the statement from INEC, it has sent out a signal to the political, to those in the political space and to global, the entire world, generally telling them that INEC understands the problem, INEC sees the problem and is willing to take actions on it. But this signal that INEC has just given by this recent speech by its chairman, it's a weak signal in the sense that before approaching EFCC or before coordinating with EFCC, ICPC and police, the Constitution and the Electoral Act has given INEC a specific burden, a burden that if INEC actualize and put into effect those sections, this issue of vote buying will reduce drastically, and the burden on the police, EFCC, ICPC will also reduce, as the case may be. So what are these laws? Well, what are these sections? We'll look at Section 85 to Section 90 of the Electoral Act, of the 2022 Electoral Act. This section particularly gives INEC broad powers over campaign financing. Campaign financing in regards to political parties, campaign financing in regards to candidates. It places a burden on INEC to get the audited account of political parties 6 months after every election, place the burden on INEC to give a guideline for to know the amount political party spends, how the political party gets its money, how it spends it, those that finance political parties, the amount donated to political parties within the country and outside of the country. The Constitution has given a legal framework, and the Electoral Act itself has also given a framework to this effect. But INEC has not followed this procedure. I remember that was in 2023. I personally went to court, for the court to mandate INEC to give a guideline and follow the provisions of the Constitution and Electoral Act. Until this day, INEC has failed to obey the judgment and even to follow the constitutional provision. So before INEC invites other people, the ICPC, the EFCC, the police, it should check itself first. By checking itself, what it means is that it must obey the Constitution, the Electoral Act, in regards to its power for campaign financing itself, which it has failed woefully to do.
Very well said, Opatola. I appreciate your opening statement, calling this a weak signal and showing the burden that has been put on via the Constitution and Electoral Act on INEC. But I want to follow up based on the last statement that you made, that till date, INEC has not obeyed the court judgment or followed the constitutional provisions that it's supposed to. Now, if we're talking about what took place during the last election, general elections, and there's still been and INEC has not followed through, then is this not to say, and there's been no consequence from all that you've pointed out, is this not an indicator that we might just be repeating history since there's been no consequence whatsoever?
Okay, so what I was actually saying that led to the issue of judgment is the fact that there is always a cause, and effect. There's a cause which we ought to face and tackle. Then there's the effect, which is vote buying. And in order to, reasonably tackle the effect, INEC must take the bull by the horn. There are already provisions in the Constitution and in the Electoral Act, which place certain obligations on INEC. if INEC can follow these sections in the Electoral Act and the Constitution, the issue of vote buying will drastically reduce. Now, we must have it in mind that vote buying during election is like a marketplace. There are those who they are the political investors, they are the middlemen, the agents, and the consumer. It's like a market. If INEC can follow the provisions of Section 85 to 90, which places a burden on INEC to regulate campaign financing in Nigeria, to ensure that the source of fund of political party, the means and ways political parties spend this money, those who donate money to political parties and candidates, INEC has the burden to regulate it. For instance, 6 months after every election, each political party must give an audited account to INEC. Every year, each political party must submit an account to INEC. Those are frameworks that are already embedded in our laws, that if they are obeyed and followed, we will drastically trace the issue of financing. Will be easier to dictate the movement of money, especially during campaign, during election, and even subsequently after election. So it is important, first of all, before INEC start delineating duties or making collaborations with EFCC, ICPC, as the case may be, for it to ensure that it follows the legal stipulations in the Electoral Act and the Constitution. Then going to the judgment in 2023, I went to court by way of mandamus to compel INEC to give a guideline to political parties and candidates to ensure that within a stipulated period of time, they give an account of the funds that they receive within the country and outside of the country. The funds that is spent before election and during election, for INEC to regulate it. But till today, INEC has not complied by that judgment. INEC did not follow its own act, that's the Electoral Act itself. So before INEC approaches ICPC and EFCC, the first point of call is to check itself and ensure that it's following the law as stipulated, which it has failed to do so far. So there's a burden on INEC. INEC should exercise that burden first, and it will make it easier for other agencies like ICPC and EFCC. All these agencies have their specific duty under the law. Whether or not EFCC can venture into electoral malpractice is another ball game altogether. Whether or not vote buying is a financial crime is another ball game altogether. But INEC should check itself, obey the provisions of the Electoral Act and the Constitution, and it will make it easier to trace this issue of vote buying. Let us not forget that there's a difference between the performative aspect and the transformative aspect. By performative aspect, the performative aspect is what we have seen in recent times, where the police or EFCC or some other agencies will just round up the foot workers who carry envelope around during the election day and do not trace this money back to the main financiers, the people that give these foot workers money to give and induce people. They don't trace it back up, which is the main issue here. They just arrest these people, the lowly paid people, arrest them and do whatever it is. But, the transformative one is if the agencies, maybe EFCC, ICPC, or police, as the case may be, can trace their financing up, to ensure that the main financiers are brought to book. Dark money is pervading our electoral system, especially when it comes to election. You just realize that funds started pouring in out of nowhere. Our election has been dollarized. INEC has a pivotal role to track this funding, to ensure the auditing of political parties and candidates, which will help and go a long way to sanitize our system, our electoral system.
Indeed, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much for your insights. Victor Opatola on INEC's collaboration with the anti-graft agencies to track vote buying and other electoral malpractice. It's good to have you with us.